what's up, guys and gals? Yes, you, and who could forget about you? Looks like you're ready to hear about the hottest new thing in the battery metals game. Are you sick of all the lithium this and lithium that? Then listen up, because I've got a story that'll knock your socks off. We're talking about First Phosphate, led by this crazy cat, John Passalacqua, a business strategist and early internet pioneer. You'll meet him in a minute. These guys are the real deal when it comes to a business plan that includes exploring, extracting, and purifying igneous phosphate for the LFP battery industry. Being vertically integrated, as the Harvard bros like to say. They're like the kings of the mountain, the big kahunas. I think you get the picture. You picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah, it means these LFP batteries that you keep hearing about, due to improved safety, lower costs, and long cycle life, are going to be the backbone of the electric revolution. Yet where are we going to get all this battery-grade phosphate from? Something tells me John Passalacqua knows. If you're like me and you want to get in on the ground floor of something big, something huge, something that has the potential to change the game, then you need to check out this First Phosphate. So let's stop with the foreplay and jump in and meet their founder and CEO, John Passalacqua.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of TokStocks podcast. Today I'm really excited to welcome John Passalacqua, CEO and founder of First Phosphate. It trades on the CSE under the ticker PHOS. Hi, John. Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm great, Keir. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. You're very welcome. I've been paying attention to your company quite a bit. Congratulations on a successful listing here recently. Sounds like you got a really exciting story. I'd love to sort of do a bit of a deep dive and ask you a few questions.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Keir.
Great. Maybe we could just start off. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So we basically, I've been around the business community for about 40 years. I started in business when I was very young. I've also been involved in financial markets. I started early on, as a runner on the floor of the Toronto Stock Exchange years ago when it was still non-electronic, just as it was being phased out from human to electronic. And I've also run my own family office, and I've been very involved in different forms of businesses and helping companies to grow private and public.
Excellent. Maybe just before we sort of get into the specifics, maybe you could just start with explaining the link between battery technology and phosphate, a compound that's sort of mostly known for animal feed and fertilizer. Could you explain kind of this link?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's a link that is kind of startling to many, right? No one would ever think that phosphate would, it ends up in food, and now it's ending up in batteries. So how does that happen? It's just something that has come about recently. It was discovered a long time ago, the lithium iron phosphate battery. For a number of years, it did not really take off as a technology, but in the last years, especially in China, it has been vastly employed. And now it's starting to become something that, all over the world, all the major automobile manufacturers are trying to moving some or all of their production to lithium iron phosphate batteries because of the advantages. The advantages being, superior fire safety, very environmentally friendly, longer life, and obviously the costs are a lot lower. The cost can be 50 to 66% lower than some of the other traditional NMC type batteries. So yeah, phosphate is the way to go in terms of a really good low to mid range battery that can help with mass adoption of electrification.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for explaining the connection. Is that sort of what inspired you to start First Phosphate? How did the company even come to be?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's kind of a scientific error that leads to the best discoveries. I had been looking for assets in the fertilizer space. I looked at potash, and then we started to look at phosphate, and we went into phosphate, kind of looking at it from a fertilizer angle. And then we came out of it saying, wow, there's an opportunity here in lithium iron phosphate battery that no other fertilizer company has taken on. These assets that we found in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, were igneous rock. They're very rare, 1% of the world's phosphate rock that can produce a lot of purified phosphoric acid. So we said, wow, this is something that we're really interested in. Also, I have an extensive technology background. So when I saw something that, could become a technological material, that interested me a lot.
Well, that's great. Very, very unique sort of connection. And you've been doing some great interviews here. So I'd urge people to go and sort of look you up and catch some of that to understand a bit more about your application. Could you explain a little bit for people what an LFP battery is and how it maybe differs from what you'd find in your EV or your like Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to do my best. Basically, I guess if you had to say batteries are batteries, they have the same function, right? An EV battery in an EV, an electric vehicle, is kind of like what an engine used to be in a fossil fuel car. So there's different types of engines and different types of ways of structuring that engine that give you better performance and do different things. So basically, a lithium iron phosphate battery, in a sense, is no different than any other batteries that go into an electric vehicle and allow that electric vehicle to run, sort of like an engine used to allow a fossil fuel car to run. So that's number one. But then number two, if you start to really dissect it, how is a lithium iron phosphate battery different than other batteries on the market? Well, again, it's same function, right? It powers the car, but if you look at lithium iron phosphate batteries and what are their real strengths, obviously the strengths are that these batteries tend to have a longer life. These batteries tend to be safer from a fire safety, and that's obviously very important. And these batteries seem to be very, very efficient, and they're low cost. They're great for city driving. Just regular things that we do all day long. Go to the store, go to work, pick up kids, things like that. They're not necessarily the longest range batteries, but they're really powerful for the city in terms of what they offer and price.
Great. And you mentioned a little earlier about like existing fertilizer companies haven't really sort of clued on. Phosphate markets are fairly tight, aren't they, in terms of aren't there sort of supply concerns for phosphate because it's used so much in sort of fertilizer that would be used for food production? So are you sort of diverting phosphate from these areas, and could that cause sort of further sort of food shortages that we're hearing about in the world?
Yeah, okay, so there's quite a few questions there. Let me try to break it up. I think first you said that the fertilizer companies might not be cluing on. I tend to think that they are cluing on. They understand what the LFP battery can do and what it can be. I just came back from the Global Phosphate Conference in Istanbul, Turkey, where I was a keynote on the LFP battery session. And everyone is aware, everyone's very interested. But like you said, most of these companies are involved in food, and food is a very, important thing, obviously, for the world, just like electrification is. But if you had to pick, I think eating is the most important thing for everybody. What's really important to understand here is that there are studies that link, the exponential growth in the world population to, the amount of phosphate that's been mined. And many thinking that, once phosphate runs out, also there will become a decrease in the population, i.e. meaning, a famine. So it is a very important, mineral towards expanding population into human civilization, however that is, used and done. So yes, concerns over food are important. And fertilizer companies, we have to remember, right? The reason that most of them are only in fertilizer and they can only really do LFP battery as an afterthought is a simple reason that most of the mining stock out there around the world, about 95% of it, is sedimentary rock, sedimentary phosphate rock. Now, what does that mean? Is that sedimentary phosphate rock, contains impurities, a lot of uranium, cadmium, thorium, selenium, and a number of other radioactive heavy metals. So in order for that phosphate to be able to be used in animal feed or in fertilizer that creates food, that grows food, and it's got to be purified. So it's purified to what's called merchant grade phosphoric acid. And that's where it stops for most companies in the world. Maybe 90 to 95% of the companies in the world, they upgrade phosphate rock to merchant grade phosphoric acid, and then they use it to create fertilizer compounds. Okay, but then if you need to go into the battery, you got to go one step above. You got to get the purified phosphoric acid, and there's a couple processes to get up to that level. And, many are even arguing, you got to get up to what's called the battery grade phosphoric acid, because many of the manufacturers will start to ask for that food grade phosphoric acid, that purified phosphoric acid, to contain even less metallic elements, obviously, because of conductivity in the battery, right? It can cause shorts. So there's only very few companies in the world that actually create purified phosphoric acid. So when we are talking about the battery, we're talking about purified phosphoric acid. And when we're talking about fertilizer, we're talking about merchant grade phosphoric acid. Now, most companies, because of their sedimentary deposit stock, it will only create maybe 10, 20% purified phosphoric acid. The other 80 to 90% has to stay back in a fertilizer stream. Now, with the igneous rock that First Phosphate has in Quebec, Canada, because of its high levels of purity, low radioactivity, and the fact that we can purify it up to a very, very high concentrate, means that 90% of our feedstock, of our phosphate rock feedstock, can be purified up to purified phosphoric acid. So we can be focused fully on the lithium iron phosphate battery industry and on the needs of the EV manufacturers downstream, whereas somebody on using sedimentary rock, it's only going to be an afterthought of their fertilizer production. So in a lot of ways, I guess what I'm trying to say here is the fertilizer companies are always kind of stuck to fertilizer, and LFP is kind of a new stream. It requires a new type of rock. And it's really like we inhabit the same house, but different rooms, if you know what I mean. So we're all into phosphate, but there's going to be, the level for fertilizer, and then there's a level for purified phosphoric acid, and then there's a level for, battery grade phosphoric acid. So I do believe that by bringing on new deposits, such as those as First Phosphate, that have very high purity igneous rock, we're not really diverting from food, but in fact, we're actually helping the industry to grow. And we're really, doing, two birds with one stone kind of thing.
Excellent. Sounds like a great competitive advantage by just where your projects are based and the type of rock type that you're looking to exploit. So thanks for explaining that. That's phenomenal. I guess, what's the company's approach and business model? Are you looking to discover and grow a resource and then look to be exploited by another group, such as a major miner, or are you looking to take things all the way, or some other business model entirely?
So I think you got to look at me as Forrest Gump. Like, you give me that football, and I'm going to run it right down the end zone, and I'm going to run it to the other side of the planet, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to do it all over again. I plan to take this company, and I plan to make it a major, in the similar ways that you've got some of the major fertilizer companies out there, like Mosaic and Nutrien, that go from a mine all the way to a bag of fertilizer. I want to go from a mine all the way to a bag of cathode active material, and that requires, full vertical integration. Now, what does that mean? It means that we have to go from a mine to beneficiated phosphate rock, and we have to purify that beneficiated phosphate rock to purified phosphoric acid, and then we have to take purified phosphoric acid, lithium iron sulfate, and we have to create cathode active material. After that's done, that's where our process is going to end at First Phosphate, and we're going to pass on that cathode active material to the battery cell and the battery pack makers, and which will go into the EVs. So we will stop at cathode active material. But yeah, we plan full vertical integration, starting from mining. So there is an exploration component to what we're doing here, and then there's also, a mining component, a purification component, and also an industrial component in creating LFP cathode active material. And I think that's going to be our pièce de résistance, in the sense that controlling all those elements is very difficult for any one mining company to do. But once you got them, that's when you get the huge premium and multiple expansion on your valuation, similar to these large fertilizer giants. So basically, we're taking, like I said, with the fertilizer companies, we're in the same house. We share different floors of the same house, or different rooms. We're taking a page out of their playbook, in a sense, but we're applying it to lithium iron phosphate in terms of technology, material, and not food.
Excellent. And could you explain a little bit about maybe some of the supply and demand fundamentals of phosphate, and I guess the sort of newer application? Does it sort of, we've all sort of seen what happened in the lithium market as the prices sort of ticked up many hundreds of percent. We saw obviously massive interest from investors, and also we saw car makers looking to become vertically integrated and get into the mining business, which is pretty unique. Pretty unique situation. Are we going to see some of the same stuff happen for phosphate? Can you talk a little bit about what you think the market looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I have my intuitions, and I have my intuitions that led me to start First Phosphate and to develop it together with our management team in the direction that we have. And the intuition is this, that there's going to be a need for a pure source of phosphate, and a company that's fully vertically integrated that responds to the need of the auto manufacturers, and that's what we've built the company for. And I think that's kind of, I think in phosphate, we're going to see the same process happen, where these companies that are securing lithium, the EV manufacturers are also looking at nickel. They're also looking at manganese. They're also looking at cobalt. So, in the LFP battery, where you've got phosphate, you've got iron sulfate, and you've got lithium, of course, they're going to be looking, consolidating all three, or working very strongly with suppliers that have all three. So we really want to make sure that we have the phosphate figured out, the iron sulfate figured out, and also a very strong relationship with a lithium provider at some point.
Great, thanks for explaining that. Another aspect that I think, because phosphate hasn't really been something that investors are super familiar with outside of maybe the fertilizer side of things, and usually that's sort of potash that we're kind of all over. I'm not sure if investors really understand the grades and the rock type that are associated with phosphate exploration and mining. You've also talked about your sort of unique igneous rock. Can you explain sort of the grades and sort of the potential of your projects?
Yeah, okay. So I'll try to do that very simply. Basically, for the most part, phosphate is found inside of a mineral called apatite. The theoretical max on apatite is about 42%. Now, there's sedimentary rock, and then there's igneous rock. So sedimentary rock is usually found anywhere in the world, in its natural state, somewhere between 15, 18%, could be lower. And it goes up as high as, 30, 31, 32%. Okay. That rock is usually kind of, shoveled out pretty easily. It's separated. There is a beneficiation process, but the standard seems to be 30%. If you look at 30%, phosphate within the apatite. If you look at Moroccan rock phosphate, Morocco being the biggest producer of phosphate in the world, and what's considered very high quality sedimentary rock, that rock is generally at 30% P2O5, meaning phosphate. Now, with igneous rock, and that's about as high as they can get it. With igneous rock, it starts in the ground anywhere from 5 to 12, 13, 15%, but generally, let's say it goes from 5 to 10%. It can go as low as 3, 4%, but generally, I feel the cutoff is somewhere between 5 and 10%. Now, once you mine that ore, what you have to do is you have to extract that ore, and you have to beneficiate it, meaning you have to concentrate that ore, and you get it to a concentrate that we can get to up to about 40 to 41%. With theoretical max being at 42, First Phosphate getting up to 40 to 41% in igneous rock, that's quite high when you look at the world benchmark in sedimentary being 30%, right? And let's also remember, if you look at most of the lithium miners, some of them are mining hard rock lithium at 1, 2, 3%. 5% is like considered a massive find. Generally 1 to 3%. So if we're starting with phosphate from somewhere from 3% all the way up to 12%, it's kind of that same process that the lithium guys are going through to separate and to get that material into a very concentrated format. Now, obviously, the price of lithium is much higher than phosphate. But phosphate concentrate, at 40 to 41% as we get it, that's huge. That's massive, and that allows us a real competitive advantage, because that beneficiated phosphate can now become, could be scaled up to 90% into purified phosphoric acid. And let's also remember one thing that's really important here to leave all your listeners with: the process to beneficiate phosphate and the process to take phosphate up to merchant grade phosphoric acid and to purified phosphoric acid is something that exists in the Western world for the last 70 years. Yes, there might only be 4 or 5 suppliers out there in the Western world who can do it, but the experience level is, it's almost a century of it. When you get into commodities like lithium and graphite, I mean, all the power to everybody. But as we know, a lot of the a lot of that has never been done before. So when you're buying a lithium project or a graphite project, you're buying not only the mining risk, but you're also buying the processing risk, right? When you're buying First Phosphate or you're looking at anything in phosphate, you're not really buying processing risk anymore. If the producer is working with somebody top notch that has a technology. Now, First Phosphate just signed an MOU with Prayon Technologies out of Belgium, which, in my opinion, is the foremost producer of purified phosphoric acid in the world. Has one of the best, if not the best, technologies to do it. Practically invented the science back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and has experience processing igneous rock. So for us, that's a no-brainer. To work with a company like Prayon, it brings us expertise that we don't have to futz around with at all or invent like you have to in graphite and lithium, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. Well, that sounds like a huge coup. So congratulations on that. I imagine it took quite a bit of effort to get a group like that to the table. Only your unique negotiation skills could do such a thing.
Well, our contract or our MOU with Prayon has four parts to it. There's an offtake agreement, where we would be selling our igneous rock concentrate to Prayon for their facilities in Belgium. That was very important to them. So yes, my negotiation skills, but I believe our rock is also very important to them. And number two, we have an ability to toll process with them. So they would actually take our rock in the beginning for their own facilities, but they take a little bit extra and send it back to us in terms of purified phosphoric acid. And that's awesome for a company like ours because it saves us the capex of building our own purified phosphoric acid plant in the beginning until we get volumes up. But then number three, they're willing to license to us their technology to make purified phosphoric acid. And that's something very rare that Prayon has only done one other time with one other partner. And so that, that's very special to us. Like you said, it's been a negotiation process, but, it's a very special relationship with Prayon. We really value them. And I think they value us in return. And then number four with Prayon, one of the things that we're looking at very gently, very calmly, is the ability to partner to create LFP cathode active material somewhere inside of North America, hopefully in Quebec. So, the relationship with Prayon is on four pillars. It's very good for both parties on both sides, and it's if you had to put it on a scale, I really like it because even though they're a much larger company than us, they're a company that's got 1,400 employees. They're one of the biggest employers in Belgium, but in terms of what we each get out of the partnership, I think it's excellent, and it bridges North America and Europe together, which was really important. And we're all very excited to get going. And they're also French speaking. We're in Quebec. That helps a lot for training and other forms of cooperation. So we're very excited for that partnership.
Well, it sounds great. Thanks for explaining all the parts of it, and sounds like you've really kind of set the company up there in terms of looking at what's going to happen after you're presuming you're continuing to be successful with your exploration. Maybe just sort of dovetailing into that, you actually just recently announced some drill holes. They seem rather impressive to me. Can you put these in a context for our viewers?
Yeah, Kier, we are really excited about them. We had two earlier press releases about surface sampling that we did at one of our properties called Bégin-La-Marche. We have about 14 areas with good phosphate showings across 1,500 square kilometers of claims in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region of Quebec. Our more advanced property is Lac-Lorignal. It's got 43-101. It's been moved into the start of PEA now. But out of our other blue sky properties, Bégin-La-Marche showed the most promise. We did a sweep of all of our properties last summer to see where we had surface results. We found amazing surface results at Bégin-La-Marche. But I always tell everybody, phosphate is a big commodity. It's almost like gravel. It's not only about the percentage grades, but it's also about how close you're located to infrastructure. So what we really like about the Bégin-La-Marche is that not only are these the highest grades that have ever been found pretty much in the whole Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region of Quebec, but this deposit is also at 75 kilometers from the deep sea port of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. the deep sea port of Saguenay, in the region of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, which means, we're very close for transportation. It's got great logistics to get to the port. It's in a really friendly area. We've got great relationships with the local municipality, with the indigenous groups, and so we're really excited, not only for the grade, but also for just the logistics of making it possible. I find I've been new to mining as well, and I find that everyone's always talking about the highest grade and the biggest deposit and all this and all that, and they don't always think about logistics, right? So you can have the best gold deposit, or you can have the best phosphate deposit, whatever you want, wherever it is, but if it's in an area that's completely inaccessible, the costs of getting to that deposit really outweigh the benefits. So for me, it's important to have a really good deposit, but in really good infrastructure, and that's what we have at Baie-James-Lamarche. Now, getting back to the mining aspect of it, which you asked about, we have found our drilling samples have revealed some really good widths of phosphate that come in at about 8.6 to 10.6%. That's on our first 2 drill holes. That's very high. To give you an example, Lac L'Orignal is 5.2. If you look at Lac Paul, I believe it's 6.9 according to the website. If you look at Mine Arnaud, which is another possible project in the area, it's at 4%. So to find something at 8.6 to 10.6%, let's call it an average of 9.6. That's very high. That's very high for Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, and that should give us a very good feasibility. But especially when you look at the fact that we're at 75 kilometers from the port, that's exceptional. So we're very excited. There's new drill results to be coming out in the coming days. We continue drilling at the property. We're very excited. We're very excited for above all, for one thing, is that what we found on surface, and you can go and check out our 2 press releases from one earlier this year and one last year, that talks about the surface results. We're very happy that we're starting to confirm that those surface results continue, at ground and go below grade. So that's extremely encouraging, because those results were already banner. So we might have something here that could be very, very interesting. I want to remain cautious, and I want to remain optimistic.
Sure.
But we're very excited.
So stay tuned, is what you're saying. We better be paying attention. Well, that's great. That sort of pretty much wraps it up. Maybe just as a bit of a wrap up, maybe you could tell us about any sort of like upcoming milestones or any key messages that you'd like to leave us with about the company. And I certainly hope that you'd come back here in the future, as it sounds like you got a lot on the go.
Yeah, for sure, Keir. So I'll give you some main points. I like to surprise the market. We have to be careful. We're public as well, but just to give you some of the areas that we've made public that we're pursuing. Obviously, we're looking to get into a pilot plant on our beneficiated phosphate rock. We're looking to produce samples of purified phosphoric acid. We're looking to choose a partner to work with on the lithium iron phosphate powder side. We've recently just put out some good results with the University of Queens, showing that our Lac L'Orignal project is properly graded as an ESG deposit. That's very important because there are really no ESG-driven phosphate deposits anywhere in the world. We can control now the output of gypsum. We can recycle that. Lac L'Orignal's got low sulfur. So we're looking to go along all these lines, and especially along the ESG lines, to be able to create a phosphate deposit that will create batteries for the EV industry. In a means that actually solves a problem, right? Because if you're creating a mine that pollutes, and then to make a battery that doesn't pollute, that doesn't kind of make sense, right? The two kind of outweigh each other. So you need to start with a good, clean mining source, and you need to be able to create a proper, environmentally sound and responsible mining practice. So that's what you're going to see us moving towards. Everything we're doing, we're moving towards circularity. We're moving towards, community relations. We're moving towards studies. Everything to make, what is a proper mine.
Hey, that's fantastic. Well, John, thanks very much for giving us a good sort of initial overview. Pilot plant sounds really interesting, and is definitely, I think, something people should be paying attention to, especially for the stage of company and your market cap. You don't often hear of those sorts of things at these sort of valuations. So I commend you on that. But thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kier. I mean, just look to the company for execution. This is an execution company. We want to run something that's real, it's transparent. We want to be open to all investors. We want to communicate clearly, and we want to get things done because electrification is a prerogative. It needs to happen quickly, and First Phosphate wants to be there for when it happens.